Thank you. Let me know when.
All set, sir. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dinesh Chandrasekhar. I am part of the product marketing team here at CA Technologies. I'm joined here by Leif Bildoy from product management at CA Technologies, and together we're going to be presenting about CA mobile app services. This is a brand new product that just got released like a few days ago, and we're going to be talking about how it helps in accelerating IoT and mobile app development. I mean, it's a very exciting product, and we are pumped about it as much as our customers are that we've been talking to. So in order to set the stage, I want to start off by talking about the message about digital transformation, because this is very critical to understand in the context and age of app economies today, that where companies are talking about reaching out to customers, and they're talking about the age of the customer and how customers are feeling the need for accessing information, accessing goods, accessing services instantly and almost through any form and device possible that they have. And this could be their computer, this could be their mobile device, this could be any of the forms of communication that they are able to access to reach out to the organization and their services and goods. In that context, mobile has a far more wider and quicker outreach into organizations, and customers are embracing it wide and easily. Now, organizations, as a matter of returning to the voice of the customer, the age of the customer, and accessing and reaching them, they need to be able to create more engaging apps. Apps that retain the customer, make sure that the customers are not churning out, make sure that the customers are getting what they're looking for, and in the appropriate time and speed. With that said, the pressure then boils down to IT and the app developers themselves, where enterprises are looking up to them and saying, we need to churn out these apps real quickly so that we can get it out to the customers, be more competitive, and all that. So to win in the app economy, it boils down to speed and quality, right? I mean, that's predominantly how it works, where you have a competitive advantage if you come out with an app much quicker than your competitors. If you have an app that is able to serve up to your customer needs, you engage the customers, then you're talking about customer loyalty, which leads to customer acquisition as well, where you're talking about new customers by offering products through newer channels like mobile devices. And then, of course, the delivery cost too, where you're able to improve that by, using such new business channels and new business models where you're able to reach out to these customers through such apps and mobile devices. Now, with that said, the evolution then leads to new business channels and new business models as a form of business innovation. This is what we call as digital transformation. And this is, again, something not that CA has coined. It's pretty much known out there. What we are here to talk about, however, is how does this translate into mobile apps and how we can help enable enterprises into building more mobile apps much quicker and faster. Mobile apps are definitely strategic assets, because as we saw in today's app economy, where you're reaching out to customers because they are preferring this as a mechanism through which they can access the company's goods and services much faster and quicker. These become very strategic in nature. So the more apps, more features, more integrations definitely lead out to faster and cheaper ways of conducting businesses through new business models and new business channels. So what does CA mobile app services do, and how does it help in this particular context and the state that I've set just now? CA mobile app services accelerates the development of mobile applications with mobile SDKs and APIs. So it's primarily an SDK that helps in making sure that the developer is able to accomplish most of these backend functions that go behind into building a mobile application much quicker and faster with just a couple of lines of code using the SDK, rather than reinventing the wheel every single time with every single app and writing thousands of lines of code. So that's what mobile app services helps the developers with. These are not just about mobile app backend function building, but also about enabling and implementing security as well much quicker. And particularly when you talk about enterprise apps and you're talking about exposing enterprise app data to customers and partners, you are talking about securing them much tighter and more meaningful and secure, allowing preferential data to accessible customers, like the users that need to look at only specific sets of data. They need to use these kinds of security APIs to access those data functions. Now, the product was made GA on January 22nd, which is just 3 days ago, and we are very excited about it. However, the product has been already talked about in the market quite a bit. We already presented this at CA World late last year. We took it out to Gartner AADI in December, and in both events, the response has been phenomenal. Customers that came up to our booths took a look at the demos, took a look at what the product has to offer and how it helps in boosting up developer productivity and increasing the speed at which developers can create mobile apps is phenomenal. So one of the key things that I want to point out here is that at Gartner, where we, even the analysts were raving about, how good this product is, one of the things that we noticed was how this whole space and talk about MBaaS, or mobile backend as a service market, is transforming itself into something called as mobile application services, which is kind of very important to emphasize because that's where we are. Mobile app services is definitely, going towards that space, as well as other vendors are converging to that particular space as well. The key advantage that we have at CA with mobile app services is that it leverages the entire security capability of the CA Mobile API Gateway, which is the leading #1 mobile API gateway out there in the market. Plus, it is under the same umbrella of the CA API management set of products, where you're not only just helping the developers with using the SDK and creating a few backend functions, but also in enabling building out these mobile applications by leveraging APIs and governing them and securing them as well using the CA API management set of products. So that's where mobile app services tends itself to be extremely unique and very, very competitive in this particular space. 451 Research, another analyst firm, again, wrote up a paper on mobile app services, and it's, again, raving about how good this combination of API management in conjunction with the mobile app enablement capabilities that it has, and how it allows for existing customers. If you are an existing mobile API gateway customer, for instance, you would find tremendous value in this particular product. If you are a new customer looking for mobile app enablement capabilities and to help out your developers have a greater developer experience, this product, again, would be helpful in that particular context as well. So why mobile app services? I know I've explained this, that saying, okay, it helps you with speeding up developer productivity, the go-to market time is greatly reduced, everything. But let's talk about a little bit more in detail as to what the fundamental problems are, right? So first off, all enterprise mobile apps require standard backend functions to be implemented, and this could be about user-to-user messaging. This could be about local storage capabilities. This could be about security. So all these are standard backend functions that need to be implemented for every enterprise mobile app that you build. And the reason that I want to emphasize here is because developers tend to spend most of their time building out these functions with every single app that they build out, and this could be cut down much shorter with CA mobile app services, and they could be spending a greater amount of time on the UX part, on the user interface part, on the user experience part, so customers can be better engaged with the app, and they're able to the organization is able to retain more customers and is able to acquire newer customers as well. And of course, mobile apps use APIs. We talked about how API management and mobile app services go hand in hand. And this, again, led itself to the point that, okay, if you build out a mobile app, you will leverage APIs to call out to backend functions, to call out data, to bring the data back to the mobile app and display that to the customer, and all that will require APIs. And so the notion that, okay, you can think of mobility and API management in a totally mutually exclusive way is kind of a little silly because, they go hand in hand. And this, again, notion of mobile app services with API management gives you the power to, leverage not only just implementing backend functions, but also the whole 9 yards of from app all the way back to the enterprise systems kind of implementation. Developer experience is a very important concept that people have been missing talking about. People talk about user experience all the time, which is, of course, the number one thing when you talk about building mobile apps, because it is about the customer. It is about how you engage the customers and keep them active and occupied. However, the point to which an app is actually released, up to that point, the developer is the one that is, struggling with building the application, making sure that the app is going to be successful, that it meets all the business requirements that, the business is looking for, that the customer is looking for. So they need to have a good developer experience. The developers themselves, the app developers themselves, need to have a good developer experience. And this is critical for boosting their productivity. If they are having really bad tools to work with, if they don't have any tools at all, if they have to code everything out, all that is causes of bad developer experience, and that could lead to longer development life cycles, not agile enough for your businesses to be innovative and be able to capture new customer markets. And so reduced back-end development effort for the developer means more time for sophisticated UX development, and that's what I meant, where you shorten the life cycle, development life cycle for building out these back-end functions using mobile app services. The developers can then focus on building out more sophisticated UX for their mobile apps for their customers. One other important thing is that the developers do not like vendor lock-in. What this means is that if you, as an enterprise, buy a tool set for your developers and say, okay, this is the tool set of choice that we are going to be using for building out mobile applications for all intents and purposes. And if that is one behemoth suite and the developers like parts of it and do not like parts of it, or do not like the whole thing, or are constrained with having to use only that tool set, they are definitely not going to like that. And that's called vendor lock-in, where they're just stuck with that vendor and not be able to mix and match the best of breed set of tools, which is what developers like to do. They would like to mix and match and be more flexible. Given the context here, where we've been talking about using this as an SDK, this allows for greater flexibility. Now developers can use CA mobile app services as an SDK, but combine that with their development tool of choice, and they can use this SDK in that development tool of choice and get best of both worlds. And that's what we like about how this product helps developers with custom flexibility and customization. At the same time, even developers are given that option to choose which tool they want to work with this particular SDK and all that too. You need strong mobile security capabilities. I mean, this goes without saying. The moment you start talking about building out enterprise mobile apps and exposing your enterprise data to customers and partners, you are talking about security. This is number one. And as I said, mobile app services runs on top of the mobile API gateway, which is the number one leading security gateway in the market today. And given that, we give you the flexibility to your developers and allow them to not only just use the SDKs and APIs of the mobile app services for building on backend functions, but they can leverage the SDK and APIs of the mobile API gateway as well and build out and call out simple security implementations so easily with just a couple of lines of code using that SDK. So this kind of completes the picture of why mobile app services, why is it so powerful, and how this helps solve so many problems that developers are facing today. Now, in terms of use cases, if you think about where you would actually apply mobile app services, it's almost every single scenario that you can think of where you would use mobile app services. Let's say, for instance, collaborative applications, where you're talking about multiple users, authenticating, authorizing them against backend LDAP systems, using address books, looking up users. All that would require grouping and user management and all that. And again, that would be a great scenario for mobile app services. Talk about messaging, chat applications, where you're trying to communicate with users. And these are, again, don't think of them necessarily as consumer apps like, Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp and all that. Even enterprise mobile apps will carry this kind of capability because they don't want you to jump out of the app, go to something like a Facebook Messenger or something like that, communicate with your, again, your colleague might not be on Facebook Messenger. So you need all that communication capability to be built into your enterprise mobile app so that the user or the customer or the field service person or whoever you have designed the app for does not leave the app. They're inside the app, they're able to communicate with the other party seamlessly, and they're still able to complete their job approvals or whatever their tasks that they have to do within the mobile app. So that's why you would want to build these kinds of messaging capabilities, and mobile app services helps you do that very, very quickly and easily. IoT, we've been talking about mobile all along, but mobile app services can help you do IoT connectivity and all that too, because it supports MQTT, and Leif will go into a lot more detail about the technical capabilities. But I just want to touch upon the fact that it supports the models and the technologies that are necessary to connect with IoT devices, but not only just connect, but be able to interface and interact with them as well, get data and push them out to appropriate sources and targets through brokering systems that have been built into the mobile app services product. And so those kinds of capabilities, again, help you in not only embracing mobile initiatives, but also IoT initiatives as well. And then finally, local storage and security capabilities, where you're talking about, let's say you have built out an enterprise mobile app, you need to store some of the data locally, like documents maybe. You're building out a real estate application, building out a financial application, whatever be it, where you're storing all that data locally too. But there are two notions here. One, you need that local storage kind of capability, which again, developers tend to build out a lot of code to implement that, but using mobile app services is much more quicker. But the second notion is the need for handling the data in a confidential way, in a secure way, in an encrypted way. And using the same SDKs, they can real quickly encrypt the data, store it locally that in such a way that even if the device were to be stolen or to be hacked, the data is not compromised. So that kind of capability, again, is very easy to implement using mobile app services. So in the bigger context of API management, as I was saying earlier, we talk about API management in four broad themes. So the first one is integrate and create, which means you use APIs to connect with backend applications, to connect with existing, let's say maybe enterprise service bus kind of architectures, using various APIs, REST or SOAP or whatever be your choice of protocols to connect with. But you need APIs, again, to do all the connectivity, do all the governance that you require, and be able to secure them, because you're not only just talking about internal integrations, but you're talking about external exposing of such data and connectivity points as well. So you're talking about API management in that context. The second point being securing the enterprise, where, again, it's just not about exposing the data in a secure way, but it's also about multiple applications, talking about single sign-on, talking about identity management, who the particular user is, who's requesting for that particular data, or they're authenticated, or the internal user, external user, providing that end-to-end security for apps all the way from the mobile application to the backend enterprise system, everything end-to-end is, again, something that CA API management helps you do. The third one is what we are talking about today. Accelerating mobile and IoT development is what we're talking about with mobile app services, which, again, is part of the larger CA API management umbrella, where you would want tooling like mobile app services to build out mobile apps much faster and quicker. But it's not just about building out the apps alone, but it's also about, in combination with the rest of the things that we're talking about here, in terms of integrating with backend applications, getting the data out, controlling who gets to have the data, and reducing the mobile app build-out and delivery time much quicker using mobile app services. And the last one is about monetization of such APIs. You could be dealing with partner ecosystems and where you're building out these business values by exposing such data or functionality using such APIs and monetizing them, allowing for access to such APIs through a portal-like interface, and creating analytics and optimization of such APIs, setting up SLAs, again, going back to the whole 9 yards of who gets to access what and everything as well. So this is the overall CA API management theme that we're talking about here. But the whole notion of enabling mobility and IoT gets a very strong focus through CA mobile app services that we are talking about today. This is a sample of one of the applications that we built out for at CA World. Again, these are like 3 screens, put together to show you the login screen for the mobile application, where you're providing a username and password, and it was able to connect to the security gateway, request for security tokens and everything, authenticate them, and allow them access to that particular mobile application. This again requires the use of calling into security APIs, building out all that, quickly using mobile app services SDK as well as the mobile API gateway SDK. Building out chat functionality, being able to click on a particular user, chat with them. All that was again simply put together using mobile app services SDKs. We had even proximity sensors that were able to communicate. Again, talking about IoT enablement and connectivity with these mobile applications. And we had temperature sensors and everything else as well built out there that helped out in demonstrating the IoT enablement and connectivity capabilities of mobile app services. So very well-received demonstration that we had at CA World, and we can clearly see how many other use cases that this can apply towards for you as an enterprise, and this is just a sampling. One other example that I want to emphasize here before I wrap up is a customer service application, because I want to throw out the notion of what an enterprise mobile app looks like and how you would build it out, and what are the various moving parts here that you would use these technologies for. So for instance, if you look at a service application form like this, where you have first name, last name, blah, blah, blah. The backend functions here are, of course, user management. You're talking about who the particular user is, authenticating them, managing those users, grouping them as customers or partners or internal customers, external customers, everything. So all that kind of user and group management, chatting with supervisor and customer. Let's say you are a field service personnel using this app, you're out in place, you have to communicate with your manager, or you have to communicate with the customer, all that again, user management, messaging functions, sending service policy updates to regional customers, talking about messaging again, downloading training documentation locally, which would be a function of local storage, and connecting and testing out customer devices, which would be the IoT connectivity that I'm talking about from mobile apps. So these are all, again, backend functions that you would typically implement when you're building out a mobile application like this, a customer service application like this. And this is just an example of where you would use CA mobile app services, right? The other functions like security functions, authentication, authorization, single sign-ons with CRM applications, protecting customer data, all that would be a great case for CA mobile API gateway. And the third one would be data functions like accessing customer databases, looking up product details. Of course, we talked about APIs, but CA API management also has data API enablement capabilities with the new CA Live API Creator, where you can quickly point to a backend database and create out an API that can be exposed out in a secure way to specific consumers of that API that can access that particular customer data real quickly. So that gives you a broader picture of how these products work hand in hand and how we can help build out a mobile application much quicker from end to end using such technologies. So if you are looking for more information, go out to ca.com/mobile-apps, and you will be able to look at the product information, look at and download some of these assets. We have a data sheet put out there, has like, 2 pages of information on, the key benefits and differentiators and everything as well that you can look at, read through. We also have an ebook that, is very, very good. It goes into a lot of detail about anatomy of a mobile application, why developer experience is important. It's not just about talking about mobile app services alone, but it's also about like, setting the context of why you would need something like this and why it is important for you to focus on developers and giving them the right set of tooling like mobile app services and talk more the solution details and benefits. With that said, I would like to hand it off to Leif so that he can talk about mobile app services in a much more detailed way. But at the same time, I would also remind you that if you have any questions as we go along, please go to the Q&A box on your WebEx window and type in your questions so that you can we can look at them in the Q&A section at the very end. Leif, I'm going to stop sharing so you can take the ball, or let me hand it over to you. So you can share your screen.
All right, I think I'm a presenter now. Okay, let me go in and share PowerPoint here. So you can see this, I hope. So let's get cracking. Good morning and good afternoon to the folks on the line here. So I shall move this forward. We're going to step back a bit and talk a little bit about what's inside the app, what are the typical things you need to think about when you're building an application, and then look at the details of mass and so on, and some of the features. But first, the building blocks of mobile and IoT apps, applications, there's a set of things that you just have to do almost regardless of the type of app, whether you're building it for enterprise internally or for your customer and so on. So, almost every app would have some kind of user interface. And speaking of the user, you need to get a handle of the user. And this user, he may have some attributes like name, and you may be creating out of those attributes a profile and so on. And when you've got this user, well, I think Dinesh talked about the security aspect. You would need to authenticate and so on, and you might want to have the user authorize the application to access some of the APIs that's powering the application, and also social interactivity. Apps today are very much we see collaborative type of features. So whether it's about groups, creating groups, or just being able to share a piece of data and so on. And speaking about enterprise applications, an app needs to connect back to something. I mean, very seldom you see an app that is just residing on a device in an isolated island and not consuming data or producing data. So in most cases, there got to be some kind of connectivity back to the enterprise. And usually, a modern approach for that would be to use APIs to help the app developer connect the application. Now, the recent couple of years, I'd say IoT data and events is becoming more important, and we'll see some sample apps here that show the need for how applications are actually connecting to this data. So how can you get data off an IoT system and make it available to that developer? So it's not always that trivial. And in the end here, security is actually spanning apps, users, and devices, and you've got to think about every touch point that the app user is accessing these applications or services, if you like. So think about this as you've got a set of building blocks that you need to put together in order to get to your application, and this is what we call the app experience, right? I mean, it's fundamentally a whole bunch of pieces coming together, defining the app experience. So what we outlined here is actually a whole number of pieces that needs to be connected somehow. So you need to connect users to the enterprise. You need to connect users to other users, and maybe to groups. And the same with apps. So apps need to be connected to devices. Devices might emit data and so on. So apps need to be also connected to data. And users and apps are connected. So this is getting rather complex, right? And you're thinking about devices. Well, it used to be that an application could simply consume an API and maybe connect to another app. So you had a single sign-on session. But in today's world, your application is actually interacting with other devices, other things. So it could be like a Nest thermostat or any other kind of thing, like a car, for instance, and so on. So one of the things we have seen is that the app requirements are getting more and more complex. So we showcase some examples here. So you have these subtype of user collaboration type of apps and centered around messaging and so on, and some group functionality. On the left, you see, on the bottom, you see these newer type of apps where there are collaboration between devices, between a mobile phone and a car or your home and so on. And we also see how applications are collaborating, sharing data between them and so on. So this is getting quite complex now for app development. So let's see what mobile app services can bring here. So we like to think about the mobile app services as accelerated app development services. So essential app services for enterprise and mobile and IT developers made simple and secure. And as Dinesh mentioned, this is built on an API management solution, the Mobile API Gateway, which will provide the mobile security and integration capabilities that you would need. So speaking about the capabilities and these services or APIs that are put onto this gateway, well, first and foremost, we're providing secure and reliable messaging between users and groups. So this will be very key for built-in collaboration features. Now, powering that is actually a pub/sub model where we're using MQTT and to provide a layer, a transport layer, which is basically asynchronous messaging. And this is quite powerful if you're building applications that needs to be reactive, need to observe some kind of event or data, and then react to that when it's notified. Another key component here is user and group management. And we chose to actually use Scheme 2.0 as the sort of overlay or API layer on the gateway. And obviously the SDK will front end that on the client side, but we are actually externalizing Scheme 2.0 APIs so that you can, in a standard fashion, integrate into the identity store that every enterprise have. The last piece here is secure local and private cloud storage. It's sometimes very essential to provide secure storage. So think about different types of apps that you have, whether it's a banking app or some app that needs to store data locally. It could be a healthcare app. It's pretty clear that you don't want to just drop that into a file system unencrypted. Well, there might be cases you do want that, but you should also have the option to securely store your data. So we like to call out the simplicity of this. So we're providing an iOS SDK, and soon we'll have an Android SDK that will actually simplify the usage of the APIs. So there's a duality here. You've got APIs, new APIs that you are building out on an API gateway. It depends on the mobile API gateway, in fact. But on the other hand, you also have SDKs, in this case iOS SDK, which will help the developers to consume those APIs. And this is readily made infrastructure for mobile apps. And sometimes some of these infrastructure pieces, as you know, can be hard to build out if you're doing it from scratch. So that's why we chose actually to use the mobile API gateway, which has some pretty strong security tooling around PKI, provisioning, OAuth, issuance of the OAuth access tokens and so on. We use OpenID Connect. And all of that enable you to build security straight into your application. So what are the benefits here? MAS will allow you to write modern apps that can engage with the environment and nearby devices. And this is all built on standards. And as I mentioned already, and this is important because most often you'll find yourself integrating into different type of systems. And if the tooling you're using is all proprietary, it just makes the job that much harder. So what it allows you to do is to write reactive apps that can utilize near real-time propagation of events and data. And one of the key things is when you're setting up an asynchronous messaging system, you need to be able to control the message flow, be it into your enterprise or out to the clients. So this is what the gateway allows you to do, to basically craft policies that can filter and so on, or certainly look for that the security tokens are in place, but we can also do more detailed filtering. We're allowing app developers to create ad hoc groups for the applications, and this is key when you're building out collaborative apps. And one of the hard bits there is how do you preserve compliance within your identity infrastructure? Because think about it for a second. You got your LDAP on the back end, but how likely is it that you will be allowed to write into that LDAP from a mobile client? So we're ensuring that you have a system that can control this. And I mentioned before, security weaved into the app fabric, both of data at rest and in motion, very important. So how is this different than anything you see out there? Well, I mentioned standards and how important that is. So with MQTT 3.1.1 and Scheme 2.0, we're adding a couple of new capabilities, all standard-based. That is, our approach around standards is to embrace and extend, and that will be the path forward as well. We would like to build on standards and give our customers a chance to see, where we differentiate on top of those standards, be it OAuth or any other standard we use here. Mobile security, I mentioned that a few times now. It is that important, and Mobile API Gateway will provide you with that. Now, the Mobile API Gateway is, as you know, a superset of the CA API Gateway. Now, that's a product that's been in the market for a long time, which provides you with actually deep integration into enterprise apps and data. So this is right at the core of why this is a very compelling solution. We could have chosen, when we built out MAS, to build it from scratch. But why do that when you have all this rich functionality that you can then build the Delta on top, which is far more simpler for us and will be far simpler for you guys. Now, Dinesh and myself, we are dealing mostly with the API management type of products here, but keep in mind that there's a number of other relevant products that you can leverage when you're looking at MAS. So the Mobile API Gateway provides also integration into advanced auth risk evaluation, a very key feature. And we're also looking at providing better integrations into mobile app analytics and services virtualization as we go forward. I think Dinesh covered many of these use cases already, so I'm not going to develop too much over it. This is a recap of the building blocks that we are working around in building blocks of digital transformation. And so basically, what we're building out in MAS fits quite nicely into these building blocks. So we're extending security, and that fits clearly in the secure open enterprise category. But mostly, this is about accelerated mobile and IT development. And so we're providing a method here to bring IoT into the app economy with a messaging infrastructure which is ready to go. It's not simple to set up a messaging infrastructure, so this is what you get, and that allows you to integrate enterprise with these data and events that you generate in an IoT system. And one of the key things to keep in mind here, mobile app services, just as the mobile API gateway, is not targeted towards any specific type of application. So whether you're building applications for employees, partners, or customers, it's well worth time to take a look at these products and see how they can help you. So to put a picture on this might actually help. As you see here, right in the middle, is the API gateway and the mobile API gateway. So this is the server side, and the orange boxes here are showing the new capabilities, the new APIs that are provided by MAS. And likewise, on the client side, we're leveraging the MAG SDK for security. And one of the things I suggest the audience will do here is to go to masca.com, which is a developer site that we're set up, which is providing the product documentation. It will provide over time tutorials, videos, and blogs, and so on. But this will be the developer documentation. So if you're writing apps, this should be your favorite destination for all the things you need to get going with MAS. If you're looking at the right side here, the whole idea with MQTT and so on is that we're actually proxying. We're acting as a proxy model to a broker, MQTT broker, and that's where we can actually inject policy. We could filter and sit in the middle of that traffic and control that traffic, and that's a very important perspective on this. And I also called out a few other pieces here, other CA capabilities that we're integrating with, and some that I think the dash boxes here are also features and things that we will come back to later in spring. And probably of these, open source is something that we are looking to provide. We're not there yet, but look forward for messaging from us around that in the next few weeks and months. So the target is to use GitHub and set up a MAS project there, which would provide you with all the client-side libraries. Let me see. This is a more detailed view on the client side. So the green boxes here shows what we have today in mobile API gateway, and now what we provided last week in mobile app services is the orange boxes. So it's a reflection on the client side. It's a reflection of the APIs that you have on the server side. So it's just a convenience. Think about the SDKs here as convenience methods for accessing those APIs. You don't need to use those SDKs, and you could certainly hit the gateway without the SDKs. But for app developers, there's a lot of value there. This is a snapshot of the developer site. If you haven't already been visiting masca.com, and I recommend that you take a look at that. So I have probably more slides than we have time, and I have some more slides here around the specific features. And let me quickly show some of how does this look, this SDK? I mean, how simple is it? So if you're looking at, I'm not going to go through all the slides. I'm going to show just some of these screenshots from what does the developer see here. When you're writing a code here, so there's this different mass objects that you will be able to use as a client-side developer. So mass user. So in its basic instantiation, you get a bunch of different attributes from a user, and code completion and so on is very powerful. Now, you can also get some methods in here about how to find a user, filter a user and so on. So keep that in mind, because as you're adding in new libraries, so when you're adding in the mass connector framework, you will actually get, when you're doing the code completion, you will actually get new methods exposed. So now you see here, you can actually, on a user object, you get the alternatives of sending messages to device, to groups, topics, and so on. And so this is just by dragging in new SDKs, and one of the key capabilities, of course, is around the pub/sub model. So we're actually able here to start listening to messages. Could be from a group, from a specific topic, and so on, and to my messages. And key to this is that we're actually pre-populating a number of topics on the gateway, so that when you're starting, building out, downloading the SDKs and so on, you get this stuff, right in your hands as a developer, and ready to go. Same with the storage APIs here. It's pretty simple storage API. Save to local storage object. So that's about what I have here. I know I skipped some slides, but I think we need probably 10 minutes of Q&A here at the end. So are there any questions?
If anybody has any questions, feel free to use the Q&A box in the corner of your WebEx, or you could press *6 to unmute yourself. I'm not seeing any questions pop in yet. We'll give it another minute or so.
Yeah, and feel free to reach out and after the call as well, and anytime really, if you want to hear more about this. And we will try to provide more content on the MAS, on the developer site, the mass.co.com. That will be our single destination of all the developer-related content, and it's just gone live last week, and we will look to provide much more content there. Be it videos, we're planning some videos that will show the different features, show how to use, how to include SDKs and the client libraries into the applications and so on, and so stay tuned on that.
Lee, if we do have some questions coming in the Q&A box, are you able to see them?
Let me see.
If I can read it for you. Does the mobile app services component deployed on the API gateway and APIM portal? I think the question is, where is it deployed?
Yes. Yeah. So MAS is two things. As I mentioned, it's a set of capabilities. So in the realm of an API gateway, it's assertions and policy that gets deployed on a mobile API gateway. So if you already have an API gateway, you need to get first upgraded to a mobile API gateway, and then you can upgrade to a mobile app services bundle on top of that. And then you have this on the client side. There's a bunch of SDKs that you will be able to use against that mobile app services based gateway.
Another question is, what version of API gateway and API and portal is a prerequisite?
Yeah, so we're building on the latest release. So well, I think it was last Friday actually. We also released a new version of the mobile API gateway, so 3.0.
Yeah, but did you want to clarify that the MAG is more like a prerequisite, the mobile API gateway is a prerequisite rather than the API gateway or the APIN portal?
Yes, yes. I mean, these are stacked together, right? So the mobile API gateway depends on the API gateway, and the mobile app services depends on the mobile API gateway.
There you go. Thank you.
So yeah. And it's not supported on SaaS. So the integration, we are looking to do some integration work with the portal over the next little while, I think. I don't think I can provide any details on dates on that, but it's one of the things we're looking at.
Yep. And the price we are talking about the service, so this is a product. Again, I want to clarify, mobile app services is a product, and the price for this product is $40,000 per instance.
Yeah, yeah, reach out to your CA sales rep for those type of discussions.
Another question came in, is MAS supported on the APIM SAS2? And also, and Felix also asked, oh, you put in, can you please show the site name again? Thank you, Dinesh, for answering that.
Awesome. So with no other questions, I think we should wrap up and give 5 minutes back to our attendees. Thank you so much for attending and paying attention and asking us the very good questions. Appreciate that. Chris, you can wrap up.
Thank you very much, Leif, Dinesh. Greatly appreciate it. If anybody else has any questions, a recording will be posted on the communities. Feel free to ask your questions there, and I'm sure Leif and Dinesh will be happy to help you out. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.